Computer hardware. First and foremost, allow me to mention that a computer is divided into two main parts. Firstly, we have the hardware part of a computer, and secondly, we have the software part of a computer. So we have two things. A computer is divided into hardware. It is also divided into software. And we are going to be speaking more specific on the computer hardware. The term hardware refers to those physical parts of a computer that can be seen and touched. Hardware can further be divided into two groups, or rather, you can say hardware is in two types. Namely, we have the external hardware and we have the internal hardware. Let's look at these two types of hardwares in details, starting with external hardware. The word external means outside. So, when we say external hardware, we mean those parts of a computer that are found outside. The external hardware of a computer may differ from one computer to the next depending on the following things. Number one, depending on the purpose and the use of a computer. Number two, depending on the preferences of the user. Number three, depending on the needs of the individual who owns the computer or the organization. Examples of computer hardware which we can put into consideration are system unit, monitor, computer keyboard, mouse or any other pointing device, printer, scanner, uninterrupted power supply, or for short you can just say UPS, speakers, digital camera, webcam, microphone, external node, external hard drive, and Wi-Fi router, just to mention a few. The external hardware that connect to the system unit are known as peripheral devices because they are add-ons. They are not a part of a computer. However, you can connect them to the computer for it to be able to perform a particular function. The term peripheral means add-on, additional, or extra. So, in short, the peripheral devices, these are just add-on devices, additional devices, or extra devices. When they are not there, the computer can still function. Having said this, let's now move on to the second part of hardware, which is the internal hardware. The word internal means inside. The internal hardware is those parts of a computer that are found inside. The internal hardware of a computer may also differ from one computer to the next depending on the following things. Number one, depending on the purpose and the use of a computer. Number two, depending on the preferences of the user. And number three, depending on the needs of the individual or the organization. Examples of internal hardwares may include the main circuit board or the parent board, which you can also just call the motherboard, the power unit, the central processing unit, the memory chips, the hard disk drive, the internal hard disk drive, the compact disk drive, the floppy disk drive, though nowadays or in this era we no longer use these floppy disks. They used to be used way back at in the early development of computers. Tape drive, data cables, power cables, expansion cards, internal modems, or sound cards, just to mention a few. So there we have it. That's it about hardware. So just a recap, you have to remember that a computer has two main parts, namely the computer software and the computer hardware. Talking about the computer hardware, this is the physical part of a computer which you can see, which you can also touch. And the hardware is divided into two types or two groups, namely the internal hardware and the external hardware. And so we've been able to look at a few examples, and I hope you were able to learn and understand what we're able to share with you today in this video tutorial. Please look out for our next video. In it, we are going to be talking about the second part of a computer, which is the computer software.